We are back with Rob and Nancy Evans of Hugo's Restaurant in Portland, Maine. Great to have you here.
Thanks for having us.
Always a pleasure to be with you. Love your restaurant, and always great to see what you're doing in the kitchen because your food is so spectacular. And you've got all of Maine to gather your great ingredients.
Yes, and it's a great state to gather all the ingredients.
We've been talking about that here today at the Harvest on the Harbor, and you're going to be working with one of the favorite and most well-known ingredients of Maine,
yes,
the lobster.
The lobster, and try to demystify it and simplify it a little bit. First thing we do is we take the lobster water off the stove. And that brings the temp down to about 190 or so. And from there we put the lobsters in.
Why do you do that?
I feel the high temp toughens the meat. I'm going to pull these out in 1 minute because I want raw lobster meat to fold into the lobster bisque after. And you can see in here, because it's done a quick cook, that the roe, which is the dark green, is still raw, and that can be folded into sauces for flavors. And this light green is the tamale, which is not a good idea to eat the tamale. You can take a scissors and go right up the back and split them open that way.
Beautiful.
But this right here is my favorite. You just pull off the side, straighten it out so it's not curled, and it pops right out like that.
There you go.
We will move on to our lobster stock. Nice hot pan.
Olive oil.
Olive oil. And then
very hot. Smoking
lobster
hot.
Bodies in. And you can see I didn't use the top shells. You can use those at home if you're short on shells.
It's a beautiful Viking kitchen that we're cooking in today.
It is a good kitchen. Wish I had one of these at home.
There goes your mirepoix. Carrots.
No, if I had the time, I'd brown these bodies. I'd brown these vegetables a little bit. Little tomato paste.
Do you always put cherry in your lobster stock?
Pretty much.
It's a great flavor
if
combination.
If I get something, on average, I do. In a pot here to actually make our bisque, we've got shallots, tomato, and a little bit of curry. Again, sherry, your classic bisque. For me, all has sherry, so I think that's a necessity.
And then you cook off the alcohol from the sherry and that
mixture. You cook off the alcohol, and you bring that down, so it's...
you reduce it?
You reduce it until it starts getting sticky and start making little bubbles. Otherwise, you'd have a really whiny bisque. Although some people like that.
I hate whiny bisque.
And in the end, yes, they whine too much. Another question with bisque is how do they thicken it? Some people use flour, which would be called a roux. Some people puree the meat in there. I don't like that because it makes a funny texture to it. So we use rice, which is your classic...
In France, they often do that with vegetable soups.
Yes. And let's say we had real time here. This rice would be uncooked. And I do about 1/4 cup to 1 quart of liquid.
And that's going to add really good texture. It's
and
going to help thicken it up.
And this adds a nice texture, really smooth. So this stock, let's say that was cooking for an hour and a half. Can I hold that for you? Is it okay? That would be great, sure.
Wow.
Now this meat, we're going to fold back into it. But I think a true bisque has no meat in it. So you could take that meat and do a little lobster panini or something like that. And there's so many ways.
You don't garnish with the meat on your bisque. You just don't like any texture.
I'll garnish with it, but I like just to eat the bisque.
So you get the flavor of what it is, but you're not biting into it.
Yes, exactly.
So then after you cook that all with the rice, you're going to blend it in the blender?
You're going to blend it.
Wow.
And blending hot food can be risky, so...
You always want to leave the lid off a bit to let the steam escape.
Yeah, hot food will shoot right up where cold food won't.
And the color of the curry gives it a really nice golden hue.
This is where you could throw in your lobster meat. And you can see the color on that. Now what's going to happen is this is just going to barely cook that lobster meat.
Smells amazing. Wonderful.
These are oyster crackers that we make at the restaurant, our homemade oyster crackers.
They're beautiful.
Float some of those in there.
It's so great to be able to use the seafood from Maine and to support the industry. It's fished right here in the waters. It's sustainable. It's local agriculture. It's great to support the state in that way.
And I think people think of lobster in the summer, and I hope we proved today that any time of the year you could definitely make a full meal.
Fantastic. See?
I freeze the bodies too because we don't eat that much at home.
You
so
do?
I'll take the bodies and might only
Right,
have
you
2
can
or
make
3 at
bisque
once.
another day.
Yep, and I'll
take
put
the
them in
meat
the
out
freezer.
for a sandwich.
And then when you're ready to make the
I
stock.
might have 8 or
I
12
think the
lobsters.
important thing to remember with lobster is it's all usable.
Yeah. This looks really good. It smells good.
Wow.
Lucky you, married to this guy.
We don't eat like
She
this
does
at
the
home.
cooking at home. So.
I hear that from everybody, but still you have to learn a lot working next to him. And your wine program at the restaurant, let me say, is spectacular.
Thank you so
Such
much.
a great
Thank you.
place to eat and
Thank you.
drink and be merry.
The tail meat's perfectly cooked. It's really nice.
Thank you so much. It was a pleasure to be here with you on the
Pleasure.
harbor, the Harvest on the
Thanks
Harbor
for
in
having
Portland.
us.
Great to see you again.
Always a pleasure.
Always a pleasure.
Have fun and ride safe.
We will. Thanks, Hope.